Good day everyone! Welcome to Sir Fox Learning Channel. Kumusta po kayong lahat? Happy learning everyone! And for today's video, pag-uusapan po natin General Physics 1, Vector, and Scalar Quantity. Ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng Vector from Scalar Quantity? Kung gusto mo pong malaman, panuorin mo ang video ito. Happy learning!
Scalars are quantities that has magnitude or that has magnitude only and has no direction in space. So what are those quantities which are scalars? We have here some examples of quantities which are scalars. The length, example of length is 2 meters, 100 centimeters, 12 inches, that's length, 2 kilometers distance. Area, another example of scalar quantity, the volume and time and mass. So these physical quantities, basic physical quantities, non-derived quantities are scalar quantities. However, when we say vectors, it is a quantity that has both magnitude and direction in space. Example of vector quantities are when you push when Tweety pushes the mailbox, it shows direction, it implies direction, therefore it is a quantity. The magnitude of the box and the direction where Tweety pushes the box. And another picture here shows a direction signages, right? So therefore, here are some examples of vector quantities. Displacement, when we say displacement, it is a directed distance. A velocity uses displacement over time. Acceleration, which uses velocity over time. And force, which uses acceleration. So if you will notice here, these quantities are derived quantities. Therefore, these quantities have magnitude and also directions, which are considered as vector quantities. Let us have these diagrams of vectors. Using diagrams, vector uses diagram to show by showing or uses arrow to show its magnitude and direction. For instance, the length of an arrow represents its magnitude, yung length. So when we say length from here, from the intersection to this point, that's the magnitude representation. And the direction, or where the arrow points, shows the direction. Sometimes vectors have components. Now, we need to determine the resultant of these vectors. The resultant is the sum or the combined effect of two vector quantities. Example, you have 6 Newton and 4 newtons. What will be the effect, the sum, or the resultant vectors of this? So if you have the same direction, your resultant vector is 10 newtons. Since you are talking about the sum or the effect, if you have 6 meters vectors and 4 meters vectors, the resultant vector is 10 as well. But what if vectors is in opposite directions? What will happen if the vector is in opposite direction? Let's have this example. If you have 6 meters per second and 10 meters per second, which an opposing direction, interacting each other, and therefore you have 4 meters per second vector, a resultant vector. So you take out 6 over 10. 6 from 10 rather. So therefore, that's the effect of this quantity. Another example, if you have 6 newtons and 10 newtons with opposing pero outward yung direction, not inward. So the resultant vector will also 4 newtons. So that is the effect. You take 6 newtons from 10 newtons. There are also laws in representing vectors. Depending on how it kung paano sila nag-connect, how it connected. Example on our diagram, the connection of this is tail to tail. So tail to tail because this vector connected to the tail of these vectors. The complete parallelogram for us to show its resultant vector. Ayan, that's the resultant vector. You will just complete the parallelogram by showing it through an imaginary line for you to know the resultant vector. We have also the triangle law. A triangle law, when two vectors are joined, head to tail naman. Head to tail. Kanina, tail to tail. This time, head to tail. Ayan. Yung head to tail. Saan kaya natin ilalagay yung resultant vector dyan? You will draw the resultant vector by completing the triangle. Like this. Okay? Let us have an example. Resultant of two vectors, if you have forces are applied to a body as shown. What is the magnitude and directions of the resultant force acting on the body? You have 5 newtons and 12 newtons. So you have tail-to-tail connection of these vectors. So what will you do? Complete the parallelogram. Ayan. That's, again, imaginary line po yung for us to complete the parallelogram. So, saan manggagaling yung ating resultant vectors? From A to C, yes. From A to C. The diagonal of a parallelogram A to C represents the resultant vector. The magnitude of the resultant vector is found using Pythagoras theorem. For us to know the magnitude of this resultant vector, we will just use Pythagorean theorem. Ayan, ano yung Pythagorean theorem? C is equals to the square root of A squared plus B squared. So by substitution, you have 12 squared and 5 squared, expressing it, and then you will have 13 newtons. So you have the magnitude 13 newtons. And the angle of elevation is by getting the tangent theta, 12 divided by 5, tangent theta is equals to 67 degrees. And that is now your resultant displacement, which is 13 newtons, 67 degrees with 5 newton force. Okay. What about this problem? You have 5 newtons and 10 newtons. Find the magnitude. correct 2 decimal places, and the direction of the resultant of these 3 forces shown below. What will you do? Find the resultant of the two 5 newtons forces first. So by completing what? The parallelogram. A triangle. And then, just get the magnitude by applying Pythagorean theorem, and you will have 7.07 newtons magnitude. Get the angle of elevation by getting the tangent of that, which is equal to 45. Then 5 over 5 is 1. Tangent 1 is equal to 45 degrees. Now, you have now the resultant vectors connecting tail to tail. So, we will get the effect of tail to tail, 10 newtons and 7.7 newton forces. The two forces are in straight line at 45 degrees plus 135 degrees equals 180 degrees. And in opposite direction, connecting tail to tail. So the result of 10 Newton will effect by taking out 7.07. Therefore, you have the resultant vector 2.93 newtons in the direction of 10 newtons force. Okay? Let us have a recap. What is a scalar quantity again? Well, you can write down on the comment section. What are examples of a scalar quantity? And what is vector quantity again? And what are the examples of scalar quantity? And how are vectors represented? What is the resultant of two vector quantities? What is a triangle law? And what is a parallelogram law? For you to answer this recap, comment down your answers on the comment section. That's all for now. At kung bago ka sa channel ni Sir Fox, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell all para updated ka sa mga susunod ko pong video lessons. Happy learning, everyone!